Thanks for logging on to Wayne.com for another edition of Inside the Zone. Blake Sebring, the Komets beat writer from the News Sentinel, joining us as always to talk Komets hockey on this Monday. And Blake, a 3-game road trip to Colorado. The Rocky Mountains were definitely rocky.
Yeah, there's not a lot of positive to say this week. It just didn't happen. And, you give up 2 goals in the first 2 minutes, basically, on Saturday night, and you can start the trip home.
And really one of the things that was glaring is, other than the win on Friday night where they scored 6 goals, the lack of offense in the other games, just 1 goal apiece in the 2 other games. So what do you have to get going? Thomas Beauregard is going to get his, it appears. How does everybody else get going? Giossa's played well in the last 10 games, but we're not putting up a lot of I shouldn't say we, I'm not on the team. The Komets are not putting up a lot of goals recently.
You're basically getting scoring out of one line. The Brandon Marini, the Marini line, yeah.
Well, you know.
Yeah, Brandon Marino and Eric Giossa and Thomas Beauregard. And Thomas, it's really strange. He's got 4 goals in his last 6 games, and in those games the Komets have scored 2, 1, 1, and 1. It makes no sense at all. You could really lose sleep thinking about some of this stuff.
Got the opposite of the Midas touch.
Yeah, it's amazing.
One of the things that became glaring, I think we saw, especially in the game where they won. They gave up 5 goals on Friday. 4 of those were on the power play for Colorado. Special teams has been an Achilles heel for this team all year long.
It's been an Achilles leg.
Oh,
It's really been bad.
What do they have to do to get things righted in terms of that?
At this point, it's got to be a confidence thing. And I know they're trying different things, but it sure doesn't look like it sometimes. And it looks like they just kind of sit and try to do the same things. They got a guy behind the net, and they've got one guy in front, and they've got a guy on the wing, and they got the 2 points. And it's like, well, what about 2 guys in front of the net? And I know they've tried it sometimes, but it just seems like they just lack confidence. They're not even getting shots anymore on the power play. It's 6 for 71. At some point, you got to just say, okay, first guy gets across the line, you guys just start firing. Everybody else crash the net for rebounds. Just to mix it up, something, anything. Everybody fire. You look at Colorado's power play, and they have 5 guys. The puck is never there for more than a second. It's boom, 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 boom. Everybody's moving to meet the puck. They're not waiting for it. They're just constant movement. They're opening up holes in the defense. They're opening up lanes. Somebody shoots from the point, and there's a guy in front tipping it and another guy there for the rebound. They just, bang, it's in. They just kept moving until something popped. And the Komets seem to slow down until nothing happens.
Yeah, second worst power play in the ECHL. Jamie Milam, the recent signing, should help that. We saw he had 11 power play goals last year out of his 20. How is he going to fit into the mix? Because this is the week where we're really going to see Jamie Milam up at the forefront, don't you think?
Yeah, I don't know. You kind of wonder at this point, are the other 4 guys, is their confidence so bad right now that even Jamie can't do anything? But then you could see Jamie go out and score on his first shot too, and maybe that gives everybody else the boost that they need. But it just looks like they're all, I don't want to say sleepwalking, but they're all stunned when they go out there. They're all like, they know what to do, but they have to think about it rather than just doing it. And sometimes that doesn't work.
When you take a look at the flip side of special teams, their penalty kill, it's not a whole lot better. They're 18th in the ECHL, and they've given up 28 goals in the last 26 games. How do they right that side of the ship? Because there's some different faces out there on the ice when they're doing that.
Yeah, that's another one. Maybe you should try different players. I don't know, because the defense has not been the greatest at moving people out of the slot. I think that's been a big problem. Tyler's been good at it. Brent Henley can do it. Maggio did it when he was here. But it seems to me that what's happening is a lot of times you're getting some confusion down low. And that seems to be a problem. Look how many backdoor goals that there have been this year. So I don't know. They've tried everybody back there. Eventually, you're just going to have to go with what you got and hope the goalie can make the save.
You mentioned Henley. Where does he stand in terms of the league now? Because I know that you wrote in your blog, we're taping this at 3:30 on Monday, that you wondered if a suspension might not be looming.
Yeah, I don't know. It could be, because he had an abuse of official misconduct, and that would be his second one of the year, and this league frowns on that, so he may have to sit for Tuesday, but I haven't heard anything yet. But maybe that means there won't be one too.
All right, so Tuesday a game at Cincinnati. The question right now...
Yeah, you have to win this game, period. I mean...
It's a huge win.
You lose, you're 10 points out, it's over. You're not going to catch them with 21 games left. I mean, that's just all there is to it, and especially when you only play them twice the rest of the way. And none in the last month. I mean, they've all been must-win games of late. I mean, let's face it, going 2-3 on this road trip means every game from here on out is a must-win. I mean, it's as simple as that.
I think ironically, about 2 weeks ago, we were wondering, what are they going to do with the goaltending situation? They got too many goalies. They're going to have to get it down to 2. Now they're kind of on the flip side of that because Marco Kuzno this past weekend gets called up to the AHL, to Norfolk, and Kenny Ryder was already off to Bridgeport.
How'd you like to be Kenny's year? You go to Bridgeport twice.
Yeah.
You get Hurricane Sandy the first time. You get Tropical or Winter Storm Nemo the second time. It's like he's got to be feeling jinxed. Although he knows what every square inch of a hotel room in Bridgeport looks like right now.
Well, all 2 of them.
Yeah, it's been amazing for him.
When you take a look at the goaltending situation, Charlie Effinger has certainly stepped to the forefront and played relatively well. But going forward, he's their guy. What do they do for that backup spot? Because they signed an emergency, John Miller, who is a Colorado guy. Right. Certainly he's not coming back with the team. What are they going to do in terms of adding that backup emergency goalie?
Well, Larkin Frank was at practice today, and he's scheduled to go to Cincinnati tomorrow, and he'll be the backup. He's IPFW's goalie, but he's also practiced with the Komets all summer, and he practices with the Komets frequently.
He was in training camp with him, too.
Yeah, good kid. Rooms with Schrocky, which you can't hold that against him, you know. But so he's familiar. He knows the guys; they know him. That'll work out fine. Charlie would be okay, except for like, how many times did you hear Bob say, "Oh my gosh, it's a turnover right in front. Oh, they score." I mean, that happened 4 times this weekend or this week. I mean, it's how much of this do you blame Charlie for, and how much do you blame the defense and everything else? And it's like, there were a couple times where I saw a defenseman passing the puck in front of the Fort Wayne goal, and it's like, wow. I mean, that's a huge no-no, and they just need to relax and settle down a little bit back there.
I was hoping I would get to use the Tony Manning file that we have at one point, but it looks like it's going to be Saul Frank file, huh?
That's my guess. He was at practice today.
All right. Going forward to this week, if the playoffs started today in the ECHL, the Komets would make it by a hair. They would get that 8th spot. Obviously, they'd like to move up, and certainly they're within striking distance of first place, although you mentioned how big the games are this week. Heading into this week, 4 games on the schedule. What do you need to do to be successful if you're the Komets? What's a successful week, and how important is this week that we've got 7 weeks left and only 22 games?
Well, the minimum is you got to win 3 out of 4. That's the minimum. I mean, let's face it. Since mid-November, they've won 2, lost 2, won 2, lost 2, won 2, lost 2. You've got to break that pattern somehow. You've got to find a way to win at least 3. I mean, and you got to find some consistency in your game. You can't have such total opposites from game to game, night to night. You've got to have some consistency in your effort, one way or the other. Even though 3 of these games are on the road, and you're going to end up with 8 of 12 at home, these are they're must-win games. You've got to, if you're going to catch Toledo, you got to win Sunday in Toledo. If you're going to stay, you got to win at home Saturday night without a doubt, and you got to win Tuesday in Cincinnati. That leaves Evansville, which is the weakest team that you're going to play Friday. So they're all pretty much must-win games, and it's not so much of, because if you look at the teams you're playing, it's looking at the circumstances you're playing, and you've got to have some urgency. You've got to have some, you just got to have some consistent effort somehow.
And you mentioned in your blog that, I don't want to say that there's a lot of cushion left at the back end, because there certainly isn't, but the road trips towards the back end of the season for the Komets is relatively favorable.
Yeah, oh yeah. There's only a trip for 2 games to South Carolina and a trip for 2 games to Elmira. I mean, it's not going to get any better than this for the last 20 games. I mean, man, that's a cushy schedule that way. I mean, you went through murder to get there with that 25 and 44, but that last 20 games is where you get your reward for the schedule, and you better be able to take advantage of it.
And if you're Al Sims this week, obviously you're coming off the 3 games in Colorado, and then you've got a Tuesday night game on the road. How do you get some things established in practice this week? Because your schedule's a little bit in flux.
Well,
to
you
a
get back
degree.
at 11 o'clock last night and you practice this morning. I mean, that's how you got to do it. I mean, you can't be nice and give the guys extra time to sleep in. No, you guys, we're going. We got to get this stuff figured out.
All right. Final thoughts heading forward to this week. What are you most looking forward to, Komets-wise?
I just want to see a consistent effort. I mean, let's see them have the same first period 4 nights in a row. And let's see them come out and, don't give up the first goal every time. I mean, come out and be aggressive. Set the tone, set the standard, skate hard. I mean, you can beat these teams. You've beaten them. You've played them all many times. It's time to really step up. I mean, this is it. This is make or break right now. It really is. I mean, if you lose 2 points behind Cincinnati this week, you're going to be 10 points down with 18 games left. That is almost impossible, especially since you don't play them hardly at all. I mean, you really need to start the push this week. They haven't had a 5-game winning streak since they were 7-2-1 at the start of the season. I mean, you got to put something together.
Absolutely.
And they're relatively healthy.
Yeah, they really are. And 3 games on the road this week. We know the Komets historically very good on the road, and just that Saturday night game at home, of course, we'll have it covered here on Wayne TV, and Blake will have you covered like nobody on his blog, Tailing the Komets, and also in the News Sentinel. But for this week, he's Blake, I'm Glenn. We'll see you next Monday.